right, members, we have a sign-in sheet. Hopefully all of y'all got a chance to sign in. Is there anyone who is a precinct chair who did not sign in? Oh, there's a couple. Okay. The secretary can pass out the sign-in sheet. While she's passed that out, is there anybody tonight who would like to volunteer to give the opening prayer? Mrs. Carr, there at the front. I think you're the first one to raise your hand. Would you like to give the prayer?
You want me to come there?
That's fine right there. Everyone please stand.
Our Father who art in heaven, we thank thee so much tonight for the opportunity we have to meet here as the County Executive Committee. We humbly ask, Father, that we might have thy Spirit to be with us tonight as we conduct business at the County Republican Party. We thank thee, Father, for the opportunity to live in this free country that thou hast declared as a land choice above all other lands. We ask that thou wilt bless those in attendance tonight, that our hearts and our minds and our ears might be open and attentive, and that we might have thy Spirit to be with us. We ask that thou wilt touch the hearts of those who have chosen to be in disagreement with the committee, and that we might be able to be unified once again. We pray for the leaders of our country, that thou wilt bless them, open their hearts and their minds, that they might serve thee to the best of their ability as they try to serve our country. We ask also, Father, for a blessing on those in our military, that they might have thy safety and thy protection to be with them as they serve us and as they defend us, and we pray for a blessing upon their families. We ask that thou will also bless our emergency responders, our police, our firefighters, that they might have thy safety and protection to be with them. We love thee, Father, and we thank thee for all that thou hast given us. And we humbly ask these things in the sacred name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right. The secretary will check the sign-in sheets, and we have 34 members present, which is a quorum. Yes, sir.
Sign-in sheet didn't make
All right, pass the sign-in sheet down. All right, we'll try to get everyone signed in here, make sure there's an accurate count. Before we get started, I just wanted to note, according to the rules and bylaws, it's the chairman's duty to preside over the county executive committee meetings. The chairman informed me that he would not be coming to the meeting tonight, and so in the chairman's absence, the rules state that it falls to the vice chair to preside over the executive committee meetings, and so unless he shows tonight, I'll be presiding over the meeting tonight. And let me just say, we as a party are a deliberative body under Robert's Rules of Order, and so that means that it's my job as the chairman is not to push any sort of policy or agenda. My job is to facilitate debate between all of you and discussion between all of you. At the end of the day, you are the body. You have the ultimate say here tonight. You guys are in control, and y'all will be setting the pace and deciding and making all those decisions tonight. My job is just to ensure that there's fair discussion and that everyone's voice is heard. And so, with that, it's up to y'all. So, let's work together. Hopefully, we can be civil tonight and agree to come together around what unites us as Republicans. And let's roll up our sleeves and work hard and get ready for the general election. So thank you all for being here tonight. First, we need to approve the CEC agenda. Yes, sir.
Information, sir. What are the rules concerning quorum for the party rules that were adopted last? What was considered a quorum and what is considered a meeting, proper meeting size for this body?
Quorum, I believe, is 25%.
Original meeting, 33% for vetting committee for vacancy.
Correct. 25% to have a meeting, and then 33% must be, or 1/3 must be present in order to fill precinct chair vacancies.
Have we determined that we have a quorum for those 2 candidates? 21 are needed for a quorum, and I have 34, so we've got 4 sign in.
So, is there a request for roll call?
I think there's a few people missing, so I think we should go through, you need to put the blank ones. The ones that are here, we know they're here.
Yes. If they're signed for the rest, we have to.
Yeah, roll call vote has been called for.
Okay, Joseph Sager, Marilyn Colas,
Yeah.
okay, Linda Talifaro, Landon Este, David Burka, Bill Kercheval, Marlise Stripling, Karen Zeller, Gary Reynolds, Jonathan O'Dare, I see your signature, I'm sorry, Lonnie Clover, Oline Heasley, Alan Moore, Pat Cullum, Scott Baker, Dale Inman, Linda Stuckey, Guy Stripling, Amy Van Horn, Brian Arsenault, Sam Littleton, Charlie Pareda, John Schaefer, Jerry Yon, Marlene Tahita, Mindy Lee Mack, Yvonne Winshee, Mary Ford, Tom Hughes, Orville Jolly, John Barton, Jean Williams, Sandra Mobley, Wendy Nedro, Becky Feaster, KT Jackson, Darlene Barnett, Johnny Bryant, Robert Casey, Curtis Luker, Carol Parson, Keith Wagner, Mark Wilkerson, Lane Carroll, Jody Renovar, Tuffley Lind, James Gilbert, Paul Coach, and Patrick Green. Patrick Green? Okay, Scott Green, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, so quorum is present for both purposes. Okay, we come to the approval of the CEC agenda. We have the copies up there. Anyone's welcome to take one. Y'all should have got one. Is there anything that y'all think needs to be added to the agenda or shouldn't be on the agenda? Or do we have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? Any discussion?
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
So we have it opposite or not? On Amendment 2, on the bylaws?
I don't think I understand the question.
Okay. Okay, so I've seen a lot of calendars on the second page, 354, 4 again, that's for different numbers. Is that-
Are you on the minutes?
Yes.
Oh.
Agenda, I'm sorry.
Okay. 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 Any other discussion? It's only precinct chairs are allowed to make.
I realize that, but
No, so you're out of order. Sorry. All right. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Now we'll come to approval of the minutes from June 26th Executive Committee meeting. Yes, sir, Mr. Sunderman.
I'd like to make an amendment. My name is spelled wrong. It is Frederick officially, so if you can change the one place that says Fred and one place that says Frederick. Thank you.
Okay. I would also, if I may, make a suggestion. My precinct is listed as precinct 55 on there. It's precinct 50. Just change that. Any other corrections to the minutes? Yes, sir, Mr. Byers.
I recommend, where it says steering committee following nominated, that we add at the end, to make it clear, the names in bold were the committee members appointed, however you want to phrase that. Right now, it's not real clear who became part of the steering committee.
Okay. Any objections? Mr. O'Dare?
I believe Scott Baker was nominated as the steering committee.
Okay, so you're moving that we add that information. Any objections?
So can we clarify this, sorry,
Yes, sir.
can we clarify these votes, because I'm a little confused here. So amendment number 2.
Can you step up to the microphone?
I just want to make sure we look at this carefully, because all I remember is a 39 to 32 vote, and I don't see 39 for and 32 against. I see on the second page 35 for and 34 against, but that's not my recollection of the vote.
It's, if I may, Brian, it's under bylaws continued. Motion to call the question, Yvonne Bush.
Okay. Just want to make sure we got that clear. Okay. Thank you for helping me.
Then also, I believe the prayer was led by Thomas Hughes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other amendments to the minutes? All right. Do we have a motion to adopt the amendments? Mr. Sunderman has moved. Do we have a second? Mr. Byers says seconded. I'm sorry, on the minutes from the June 26th meeting. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Under the bylaws, the process is set up where the steering committee will nominate and interview and nominate individuals for various party offices that are not elected by the executive committee, and then the executive committee will confirm these individuals and debate over whether or not to appoint them. And so tonight, that'll be one of the things that we take up in addition to the committees. And so in the interim, to ensure that the meetings run smoothly, we've asked Mr. Cady here to be the temporary sergeant at arms, Mr. Gure here to be the temporary parliamentarian, and Mr. Wright down there, y'all can see him, to be the temporary general counsel. Are there any objections? Okay. Now we come to the treasurer's report. Mr. Wirtz, your report.
Yes. I'm presenting a shortened version here so we can get further along with all the business we need to conduct tonight. I'll present a little bit more detailed version of the Secretary for posting and historical reasons. Yesterday, Larry Rogers of the Financial Review Committee, John Boucher, and I were allowed to inspect the books. This is after 5 weeks, over 5 weeks. Here are the numbers from the statements that we saw. In essence, they're the same as Dr. Wally presented at the last meeting. The primary account, and primary is defined as the money that is used to run a primary. It's not the main account, it's what's used to run the primary. In that account is $36,953.69. Corporate account, corporate is what is taken in by corporations or given by corporations, $51.48. And the money market account is $35,219, and the checking account was slightly different than what it was in the last meeting. It was $1,315.29. At the last meeting, it was $1,510, or a difference of $194.71. Dr. Wiley has been instructed, again, most recently, July 27th, not to spend any money from the checking or money market accounts without prior approval from the steering committee or the treasurer, yet he's continued to do so. Other than the main balance confirmations, just to statements, I still don't have direct access to accounts, including the bank accounts, for which I'll address next. I've asked Dr. Wilkerson when he'd be available for he and I to go to the bank so I can get signed up on the accounts. If he refuses, we may have to call a steering committee meeting and pass resolutions for myself and perhaps one other officer as a backup to me to have signature cards. Over the last 2 weeks, I've developed a virtual online checkbook since I didn't have access to any before that on Google Sheets using campaign finance reports. I'm in the process of taking the information, check numbers, etc. that Larry retrieved yesterday and put them into the spreadsheet. All the steering committee should have access to that online Google Doc spreadsheet account. The last contact I had with former Treasurer Landon Estee was July 19th, in which he was assessing his options and consulting with an attorney on the way forward. Dr. Wiley said off the cuff yesterday that Landon may be resigning soon. Once the Finance Review Committee, with Mark Frank as temporary chair, and I have had a chance to review all of the financials, I'd like to move forward with a formal financial review of Montgomery County Republican Party. And Mark, I still need the names and the rates of those you mentioned in the last meeting that you thought could do the review. We don't have an actual active budget for 2018. Going back to the video from that evening, Dr. Wiley addressed the prior meeting minutes, which were approved, and then he gave a treasurer's report, but that was just the account balance statements. We really never got around to the budget or approving the 2018 budget, so there's not one that's active. Finally, so I think what we'll probably do in the next steering committee meeting too as well is I'll get with the Financial Review Committee and see what we can do about determining a budget and bringing that before the CAC or the CEC at the next meeting. And finally, to complete this report, I'll make a motion to establish a committee for the purpose of conducting a performance review of Executive Assistant Ms. Melinda Fredericks, who comprises 1/3 of the $75,000 budget, to determine the need and the way forward of her future employment. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Mr. Wirtz. I'd like to, ask our parliamentarian. In the bylaws, I believe the process for most committees is that the steering committee nominates these individuals for committees and the CEC confirms them. Do we need to run this through the steering committee, or is this something we can do tonight? Okay. Any questions for Mr. Wirtz about the report? Yes, sir, Mr. Sunderman.
Quick question. I have to file my packet on reports from the Political Action Committee on July 15th. I was just wondering if there were any type of reports that needed to be filed that have not been filed for the Republican Party, especially since I'm precinct.
Thanks for the question. I did check with the Texas Ethics Commission on the morning of the 16th. The 15th fell on a Sunday, just to make sure that, to let them know what was transpiring within our organization. And the person that I talked to up there told me typically that Mr. Estee filed normally that night. I did file, she recommended that I file a change of treasurer to have that on their file. But at that point, she said that he was liable for the filing of the 715 report because he had not given a 10-day notice to vacate that chair. And then I checked on the 17th and saw that it was filed. So I know that the Texas report was filed, and I was assured by Mr. Estee that he was going to file any other reports that needed to be done for Texas, excuse me, for state and federal reporting.
Senator.
When will we know the status of the state and federal other reports?
I'm going to reach out to him again and see if he's gotten any feedback from that, so that we can verify that that's done.
Any other questions? All right, the chair has been advised by the parliamentarian that the motion is in order, and we may appoint that committee here tonight. Can we defer that until we get to the committees section, and then we can work to appoint them as an amendment to the committee report?
I'm fine with that.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Wirtz, do we need is there any further action needed by the executive committee on the treasurer's and things?
No.
Okay. All right, moving on from the treasurer, we have two of our SRAC members here, I believe, from Senatorial District 4, Allison Winter and Walter West, and they do the job of the precinct chairs at the state level and are part of the state governing body, and that's a tough job, and they work really hard at that and spend a lot of time traveling and setting for that. So I'm very thankful for everything they do. Do y'all have anything to share with us tonight?
Just real quick.
You want to step to the mic there? Sir?
Walter West, Stewart, Precinct 16, but also SD4's SRAC. This coming weekend, we're having our first workshop. Of course, the quarterly meeting will be in September. The one thing that we will be doing is committee assignments throughout the state. So we'll be putting together things for our next running year up to 2020. Things are looking pretty good. We have the Victory Fund is moving forward. We have several committee assignments that are coming down. There's a lot of suggestions that have been made, but we'll know what those are whenever the county chairs and the SRAC members get together this coming Saturday in Austin. It's a full one-day event. As well as we do have some wins here in SD4. A similar set of bylaws that we have here has been pleasantly and peacefully adopted down in Galveston County. They were able to seat a chair and to seat a committee, and they are rolling forward after 3 years of gridlock. So the lawsuits that were being threatened were dulled down, and the nice thing is it looks like everyone down there is getting along. I know the biggest issue with all of the angst with the disagreements and whatnot is our candidates are in limbo, as well as the fact that our conservative spread is in limbo. So the hopes and effects would be that something similar would happen here as well. Harris County has a big push for SD4 that's going on. So does Jefferson County, and we have some really neat engagements that are coming up. I'd love to see that continues up here in Montgomery County, where we get out to some fairs and get out the vote, at least for the fall. I know that there's typically not been a lot of activity over the past several years on get out the vote right at the fall time period, but that would be a great thing if we could get the conservatives, the Republican Party as a whole, snag it in there and get one for the win. We have these are the midterm elections. Basically, we're looking at a lot of people just staying home, and that's the way the other side can win. So the best thing to do is talk to your neighbors, get them out to vote, drive them to the polls, do whatever you need to do. But other than that, I'll leave the Allison here.
Thank you, Mr. West.
He told you about the the August 11th meeting. They're having county chair training in the morning, and also then the committee, the SRAC committee, has a special meeting that evening. But we've also been told that precinct chairs are welcome to come on Saturday too in Austin for that. And of course, I don't know, they couldn't possibly accommodate everyone, but I doubt everyone will take them up on that. But you're welcome to go. Plus, you can watch it live streaming, or you can watch it after the fact. So if you want to watch it to get some tips on being a better precinct chair or how to work your county better, that's available to you. The other thing I wanted to mention is only one committee has been formed so far for SREC, and so I was asked to be on the Candidate Resource Committee. It was kind of an ongoing committee, and they just asked a few new people to join it. The rest of the committees will be decided this Saturday, and then the officials committee is decided even later. It'll be after the September meeting. But I have envelopes. They pass these around at state for those of you that went to state, but we are raising funds for the candidates that are on the lower ballot candidates. And so all counties will be considered. These candidates should be aware of it, and they're applying for these funds. And this Friday, we're meeting in Austin for the Candidate Resource Committee, and we'll be dispersing some of those funds, deciding on how to disperse those funds to the candidates that are in need and they're in hotly contested races. So it goes to a good cause. If anyone would like to give to this, I have the envelopes tonight. So just come see me after. Thank you.
Thank y'all. You'll give a hand to these two. They work really well. Yes, sir, Mr. Gabolis.
I have a question for either one. If, God forbid, some of the misunderstandings about our new properly voted in bylaws is still on the table come September, is not the SREC sort of the final body that gets to decide those questions?
If the inside can convene,
hopefully it's settled well before that.
So before then, for years gridlock and we got lost a lot of elections. We had 9 Democrats file, I believe, here back in last December. So keep in mind, the Houston Democrats are hard up here, and so is a lot of federal folks. Who's funding here? Barbara Streisand is getting out here a little bit. So thank you.
All right, Mr. Sunderman, I see your hand.
Brief question. Usually, traditionally, we have introduction of political candidates with positions. Are we going to have that today, or is that coming?
If you would like us to have the elected officials introduced, we can certainly do that. Are there any candidates or elected officials here?
Have the day right on the elected county attorney.
Bob Bagley, Montgomery County Hospital.
All right. Moving on to the report of the Temporary Vacancy Committee. And yeah, as I stated earlier, we don't have the committee set yet because y'all are the ones that vote on the committees and choose those members. But the people that were nominated by the steering committee to these different committees, some of these people that are nominated in certain committees have met already, not to take any kind of legally binding action, but just as temporary committees like to have temporary committees at the state conventions. And they've been working to organize their committees in anticipation for the committees being appointed. That way there's some continuity and there's sort of a foundation there. So the nominee and chair of the Temporary Vacancy Committee had asked to have a report tonight. So Ms. Winter, you want to come back up again?
Allison Winter, Precinct 59. I've been asked to be the temporary chair for the Vacancy Committee, and I think it's a great fit for me because I'm very interested in this information. So I wanted to find out if you want me to tell who the temporary committee members are, or you just want me to tell people?
If you would like to do that, the floor is yours.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if that was what we were doing. Okay, so there were 15 people that expressed interest in being on this committee. There were actually a few more that we checked with, a few declined. I wanted to read who these members of the committee are proposed to be. Myself, Hartley McIntosh, Ann Kate, Betty Anderson, Bob Bagley, Brad Spratt, James Byers, John Schaefer, John Wirtz, Karen Zeller, Larry Rogers, Marcus Woodridge, Raylan Wirtz, Reagan Reed, and Sam Allison. Almost forgot him. So we met as a committee tonight. That's 15 committee members. There were 10 present. There were several that had to miss for various reasons. So we had a quorum, and we had 4 candidates come forward, and they were all wonderful. And I want to let them come and say just a few words about themselves. I would like first to vote individually on these, so that, you know, if there's some objection to one of them, then we pass the ones that we want to pass. I'm going to ask Quentin Smith to come first from precinct 9. Okay, and we just come on up and just talk for a minute, because we already know he's great.
Once again, my name's Quentin Smith. I'm in precinct 9. I don't know if people, it's the far northwest of Montgomery County, just on the edge of Grimes County. What really interested me, I got asked to show up for the precinct convention, my wife and I, and we decided to go. And we expected to see a lot of people there, and there were 3 people there. My wife and I made 2. And at that time, the precinct chair was telling us that he was stepping down. So there was no representation. And since I've moved in the county and seen some of the things that are going on, I'm thinking I need to get involved because they don't make me upset. So I'm looking forward to getting involved, especially in the Republican Party. As you know, being a minority, everybody in my family is a Democrat. I fight with them on Facebook. I start fights with them on Facebook just to upset them. They need to realize America's a great country.
Amen.
They need to understand they can't go back to Africa.
Yes.
They're Americans just like everybody else. We fought for it. People like yourself fought for it, and they need to embrace it. That's my argument.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just take a vote on it while it's fresh on our mind.
Parliamentary inquiry. Are we allowed to vote individually on these, according to bylaws, vote individually on each of the vacancies, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so.
Did I see another hand? Mr.
Yes.
Sutterman?
Question.
Yes, sir.
During the temporary committees that we have, are people allowed to speak that are not members of the committee? And what are the rules currently?
I believe that's up to the discretion of the chair of that committee.
I think in this case it's fine, because I think y'all need to know who you're voting for. I would like to ask a question. I need to establish that there is a quorum for us to be able to vote tonight on these candidates. That's important.
A quorum is present. Yes, ma'am.
For the 33.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So
40 members present. I ran the math a second ago, and I think it's 27 is required, so we're well over quorum.
right, thank you. Okay, so all precinct chairs in favor of Mr. Smith becoming precinct chair for precinct 9, raise your hand. Okay, any objections? Okay, thank you. Now we're going to hear from Sandra Grossman for precinct 81. She's interested in filling that position.
Try to make this short. I came back in the mid-90s from Saudi, after living in Saudi Arabia for 10 years, and that's when I joined the Montgomery County Republican Party. And I support the party platform. So from 1996 to 2008, I was a delegate to the Texas State Convention. And in 2018, my precinct chair for precinct 81 didn't show up. And I was the former precinct from 2000, when it was a new precinct, to 2008 of that precinct. And so I just filled in, ran the precinct convention, also went to the senatorial. This year didn't go to the state convention because my daughter got married. I've been field director, campaign manager, helped with Greg Abbott, co-chair when he ran for Attorney General. I've served on the nomination committee, the finance committee, the candidates committee, the vacancies committee. And 1 year of volunteer activities for candidates and Republican activities. I had one of the top hours. So I worked hard back in that period. And I belong to the Republican women's groups, a lot of them. I've been on the board, etc., the Texas Equal Forum, Tea Party. And presently, I also went back and got certified as a clerk again, to clerk, and I clerked during the primaries and runoffs this year. And when I saw that from the time I resigned, as I loved working on campaigns, but when I got to be precinct chairman, I loved that too. I just went after everything. But I resigned for a period because I needed some time with my children and grandchildren, marriages, and et cetera, et cetera. But when I saw this void, I decided maybe it was time to jump back in, because I've lived in that area during that period. I never heard anything from anyone. So I went back to election school and got recertified. I helped with clerk during the primary and the runoffs, and if you'll have me, I'm ready to go back to work. I'm Precinct 81, Sandra Grossman. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's Sandra Grossman. She's interested in Precinct 81, being a precinct chair. Any questions? Okay, so everyone in favor of Sandra Grossman?
Mrs. Winter, that is out of order. In order to approve, according to the election code, the rules, in order to approve and fill vacancies, we have to have a motion by the floor. The way it'll work, we'll have a motion from the floor to approve the report, and I believe someone wants to make a motion to divide the question, to consider them individually, and then we'll have to call for a vote that way. So right now we're just giving the report. All right? We'll vote after the report's finished, if someone moves to do that. All right?
All right. We'll go on to the next one now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Precinct 91, Marcus Woolridge is interested in that, and I'd like to ask Marcus to come up here.
I'll just stand up here and I'll do without a microphone. My name is Marcus Woolridge. I live in precinct number 91. I've been living there for 28 years. I volunteered to work with Wally Wilkerson after the 1992 election when Bill Clinton won. And what happened after that election is I was an independent, basically, and I was I went ahead and didn't know what I was after that election. I did not vote for Bill Clinton. I went ahead and I voted for, who was the other guy that disrupted the Republican Party? Ross Perot. Yes. So I was a big Ross Perot person at that time. And after I went ahead and he lost, I read a couple of books on government, both federal government and state government. And after that time, I figured out immediately that I was a Republican. So I walked over to Wally's office and decided I was going to volunteer. And I volunteered 1 day a week for the next 3 years with Wally. Did get out the vote campaigns, mailed out letters to people, went ahead and did phone banks and learned everything about the office and everything like that. And as a result, I learned all about the candidates of the Republican Party at that time. I know that it's a big responsibility, but when I went ahead, I didn't do anything basically with the party since that period of time. I went ahead and I did get a chance to go to the precinct convention this time, and the only reason that I went is that somebody sent out a piece of mail or I should say, when I voted in the primary, they gave me a piece of paper that invited me to go to the precinct convention. And when I did go to the convention, nobody showed up, but the election judge handed me the packet, and as a result, I went ahead and decided, okay, I'll give that to the judge when he comes. The precinct chair, there was no precinct chair. It was just me and my wife. We went ahead, and since I understood a little bit about how the politics works, we held the precinct convention ourselves. We elected me as precinct chair and her as the secretary. I filed the paperwork properly with Wally, and he was excited. He says, great to have you come on board after all this time. And then as a result, we went ahead and we went to the Senatorial District 4 convention, and we learned a lot there. And I volunteered to go ahead and become a state delegate, and I went to the state convention where I met all the wonderful people in the party. The people in particular that I met that had big influence on me was Allison Winter. She went ahead and took me by the hand after the very first big meeting over to the caucus, and from there I got to meet a bunch of different people. I was very, very happy to see the number of conservatives that have been coming into the party, because, and I was excited about the conservative movement in this party, and I was notified by the group of conservatives, and there was a good size, at least a half dozen individuals who talked to me at that time, and I told them I was behind them 100%. I understood the way the bylaws were in the 90s, and nothing had really changed, and I was quite excited to see a mini revolution within the party here.
Thank you.
Marcus, thank you. That's great. Marcus is like the dream precinct chair. He's very enthusiastic. Okay, now I would like to call Mary Lewis for precinct 94. And both Marcus's and Mary's precincts are new precincts, so we don't have anybody in those seats yet.
I was in precinct 82, and it's right on the cusp of Kingwood and Harris County and Montgomery County, right there, that little area. And I found out that 94 was open. I didn't know where to vote, and I went in there, and it was vacant, as somebody else had talked about. When I went back at 8 o'clock to be a delegate, there wasn't anybody there. I'm friends with Betty Anderson. I called her, I told her about it, and she said, Mary, might be good news. You can come on board. And I was, oh, Betty. And then she's known me for a long time, since year, I think, 1999, when I moved over here to the Woodlands area, before I moved back to where I was talking about now. I was active in Harris County. I'm from Kingwood, and went to state many times. People put me on phone banks a lot. I know a lot of people. I've always been in marketing, and I'm very good with the details of talking about what I believe in, and talking to people about how important it is to get out and vote, and for the certain candidates. At one time, I even worked for Steve Stockman in Webster, because we had to do something about Jack Brooks. He'd been there so long, and he was able to, win. So I feel I'm a patriot. I had been talking to them before. It's grassroots. It's extremely important, and all the way up to the White House. And I think that I could do well in 94. I'm going to take a lot of instruction from you people who have done this many times. And I think a lot of it's because I'm so well known in the community that can help me too. That's my neighborhood, and I've lived there since 2000. So that's why I think I would do well in it.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm told that we need a motion to divide the vote, I believe.
All right. So we'll first.
I move to approve the report.
Correct. We need a motion to. Well, parliamentarian has advised me we need a motion to approve, or we need a motion to appoint the individuals recommended by the temporary vacancy committee. Can you make that motion? Wait a second. All right, and then I believe there was a motion to divide the question. Mr. Crumby moves to divide the question. Is there a second? Mr. Kaiser seconds. All right, members, the question before us is whether or not to divide the question, which essentially means that we would consider all of the individuals and vote on them separately. Is there any discussion on the motion to divide the question? Mr. Sunderland.
We've got 2 kids here, went to the separate committee, all the people who came before us with good, solid Republicans. I think we'll be wasting our time about the question.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? Mrs. Russell?
Just a comment. I just think we're setting precedents if we do that. Future nominations. If we're going to, I guess what I'm trying to say, if we're going to do what we want to do, like our own individual, we need to set a precedence now and do that.
Any other discussion? All right, we've had 1 for, 1 against. All those in favor of the motion to divide the question and consider these appointees individually, please say aye. Or please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. All right, it's very close. So why don't we do a standing vote? Those in favor of the motion, please rise.
You want to count, Bill?
Will the Sergeant at Arms please count?
All right, I count you down. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can't.
How many for?
21 that I count.
21 for. Those opposed?
One, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You got what, 40?
So 16 opposed? The ayes have
I
it.
probably didn't count myself.
Motion passes. Okay, who was the first individual?
Okay, first individual is Quentin Smith. I'm sorry, did you have a point of order? Okay, Quentin Smith, precinct 9, we'll reconsider that again. So, should I say or should
Do we need a motion to appoint Mr. Smith to precinct 9?
I saw the
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next.
Come on, Quinn.
Okay.
You're friends with us, Quentin.
Quentin
Come
gets to
on.
move over, okay. Okay, precinct 81, Sandra Grossman.
We have a motion to appoint Sandra Grossman to precinct 81. We have a motion with a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Congratulations, Mrs. Grossman. You may move over.
Precinct 91, Marcus Woodridge.
We have a motion to appoint Marcus Woodridge to precinct 91.
I move.
We have a second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Woodridge.
Okay, lastly, precinct 94, Mary Lewis.
All right, do we have a motion to appoint Mary Lewis to precinct 94? Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, congratulations.
Thank you. That concludes the report.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Winter, and thank you all the members of the Vacancy Committee for taking the extra time to screen with these individuals and put together this report. I'm very, very thankful for that. Mr. Sunderman, yes.
We have a list of the open vacant positions, please, for the rest of the precinct chair.
I believe that can be found on the website, mcgop.online. There'll be a tab there with the precinct chairs, and it should show the vacancies.
Okay, so the precinct members are read at the temporary committee, so those should be.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. If y'all would like to hear what the vacancies are, she can read it off.
It'll only take me a minute. I'll leave out the ones we just elected. Precinct 2, Precinct 26, Precinct 37, Precinct 45, Precinct 53, Precinct 73, Precinct 87, Precinct 93, and Precinct 95. So that should be 9 open precincts.
All right, is there anything else that needs to be discussed under the temporary vacancy committee report? All right, we got through that. Let's move on to consideration of steering committee nominations for party officers. And as it states in the bylaws, the vice chair, treasurer, and secretary are elected by the executive committee from the floor, and then the parliamentarian, the sergeant at arms, and the general counsel they're nominated by the steering committee, and then that nomination is either confirmed or rejected by the executive committee as a whole. So we'll move to that point. We'll discuss the nominees, and then y'all will vote on them. Y'all have the final say here. So first, I guess we can consider parliamentarian. The steering committee met and unanimously recommended Daniel Ure, who's the chairman of Precinct 28, who's right here, to be the parliamentarian. We have a motion to consider Mr. Ure as the permanent parliamentarian. Motion, do we have a second? Second? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor of making Mr. Ure the permanent parliamentarian, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Ure. You are now the permanent parliamentarian. All right, Sergeant at Arms. The steering committee at the same meeting, I believe it was unanimous, nominated Paul Cassidy to be the Sergeant at Arms. Unfortunately, Mr. Cassidy was not able to make it tonight, but he said he's willing to serve and very eager to serve in that capacity. He has a law enforcement background. So do we have a motion to approve Mr. Cassidy for Sergeant at Arms? A motion, second. Any discussion? Mr. Robbins. Does anyone know why Mr. Cassidy is not here tonight?
Another obligation. We have another obligation.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of making Paul Cassidy the permanent sergeant at arms, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Cassidy is the permanent sergeant at arms. And I want to thank, again, Phil Cady for agreeing to serve in that capacity as the temporary sergeant at arms tonight. Doing a great job, and anyone gets out of line, he's going to throw you out. Okay, let's move on to general counsel. It's the lawyer for the party. The steering committee nominated Jay Wright, who is present tonight. Do we have a motion to approve Mr. We have a motion to approve Mr. Point of order, yes, sir.
So I think whenever you nominate them, you're supposed to see if anybody else is nominated. Is that correct? Just I don't want them to get the impression that they can't nominate if they want. Make sense?
I believe the steering committee nominates, and the executive committee confirms or denies.
Okay, so we have to reject and go back to.
So they would reject it, and I believe it would go back to the steering. That's my interpretation of the statute. Is that correct, Madam Chair? Article 5.3b. There you go. That's why we have this guy as a parliamentarian. Knows the rules very well. Okay, we have a motion to approve or consider Mr. Wright as the general counsel for the party here. Appoint him. We have a motion. Second. Any discussion?
Question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Rogers.
Is there any, are we paying Mr. Wright any money?
No, sir. It's a volunteer
I
basis.
think that needs to be.
Thank you for bringing it up. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor of Mr. Wright, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. And then finally, we have, it was the nomination of the steering committee to appoint Briscoe Kane and Keith Strahan as the outside counsel for the party, because there's been some talk about potential litigation against the party, particularly concerning the bylaws. It's really my hope, and I think pretty much everyone here's hope, that this is resolved in-house and that this never goes to court. But that is something that has been talked about, it's been threatened, and so the steering committee, for that reason, recommend. And I guess the difference would be is that Mr. Wright, as the general counsel, would take care of kind of the day-to-day operations. If anyone in the party has a legal question, we would approach him, and he's doing this on a volunteer basis for just sort of the day-to-day stuff. And then if the party is sued and we need to bring in outside counsel for a big trial, and in that situation, we would pay these lawyers. And it was a recommendation. Strahan Kane is the law firm. Briscoe Kane, many of you probably heard of. He's a state representative, and Keith Strahan is his law partner. And so it's a nomination of the steering committee to make these gentlemen the outside counsel in case the party is sued. Do we have a motion to approve that? We have a motion. Do we have a second? A lot of seconds. Okay. Any discussion?
Question.
Mr. Byers.
If any of us are sued by the county chair individually, would that same outside counsel with us or no?
I believe that would be up to the body to decide, because it's the counsel for the party, and so either the steering committee or the body as a whole would have to vote on that, and yes, potentially they could, if that was the will of the party. Yes, sir, Mr. Sonderman.
Two questions. One is, it doesn't seem like you're writing a TI officer. I think that this group needs some public information, doing public information work. And number two, I'm on two charities, and one left board, and all of our officers are identified on our insurance in case of lawsuit. I would think that possibly could be considered by this committee. It is expensive, and you have to fundraise it. I just want to see if those are options.
Thank you, Mr. Sonderman. Neither one of those things have been discussed. I think actually there could be some merit to what you brought up, and so that could potentially be something discussed in the steering committee meeting. Yes, sir. If we nominated a private investigator, to use that example, public information. Okay. I thought you said PI. Sorry. If we did that, then the steering committee would need to vote or interview that individual and vote to make that nomination, and then we would bring it before the whole body. As far as the other matter, you could bring that up in new business, but that's probably something so complicated we don't have all the information to be able to vote on that tonight. Yes, sir. The parliamentarian has advised me that in a lot of different cities and municipalities, the secretary fulfills the role of the PIO, and so perhaps until we appoint someone to that role, or if we don't decide to appoint someone to that role, those duties would fall to Mrs. Bingham. Mr. Gabolis?
Point of additional information, I believe we have proposed to have a PR and marketing committee.
Yes, sir.
And so I believe they would address those issues.
Thank you. Mr. Byers, did you have anything to say?
Same policy.
Okay. Mr. O'Dare?
To piggyback on what Mr. Rogers said, is there any charge from outside counsel or
If the party were sued, there's not any charge right now because there's no litigation, but if there were litigation, then the outside counsel would charge for that. There's no retainer. It would be an hourly rate to deal with that litigation. Any other discussion? Those in favor of appointing Keith Strahan and Briscoe Kane as outside counsel, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. Motion passes. Mr. Kane and Mr. Strahan are appointed to outside counsel. Okay, moving on to consideration of committee nominations. The steering committee actually had 2 meetings about this. I know actually probably most of y'all were there for those, where we hashed out, because the idea was that we want the committees to be open to everyone and this to be a very inclusive process where we all kind of sit down and discuss who's going to be on these committees and work together to collaborate to put together these teams as a body. And so the steering committee put together these lists as a steering committee's report for nominations. This report can be amended by the body, and individuals, it can be struck out of here or added to our report. And as I said, this is just the nominations. The final decision, the final vote is up to you, the body. You were in charge. So, do we have a motion then and the report should have been passed out. Do we have a motion to approve the report here, the committee report from the steering committee? Yes, sir, Mr. Sonderman. To amend. Can we get a motion to approve the report first? And then the motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Now your motion to amend it would be in order?
The motion is that we add the financial
I believe it's in there.
It's on the back.
Right, two-sided. Sir, Mr. Boucher. Yes, sir. What is your amendment?
I would like to amend this report the following way for 2018 Big Break. We had the name of Alice Malone for that. I would also like to, on the vacancy side, we had Alice Malone on that as well.
Okay. Secretary, did you get that down?
On resolution.
We need to have a fellow Cajun pronounce that name for us. Thank you.
It's Malencon here, it says. On resolutions, Castle Towery and Lori McMullen. On the candidates committee, Mr. John Nickel. Castle Towery, Lori McMullen. On the candidates committee, Mr. John Nickel and ICKELO. On community engagement, Claudia Ornelas. I'll get you the correct spelling. Amy Van Horn, Ann Kate, Maureen Romea, it was cut off, I'm sorry. Sharon O'Neill, and Sarah Reardon.
That's community engagement.
That's correct. On precinct chair support, I would also like to add John Nickel and Claire Cole Harris. I strike the name tonight, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir. You do whatever you would like.
On finance and fundraising, the person I nominated asked to be removed, Ms. Susan Johnson. And on the vacancy committee, Ms. Marissa Rummel has also asked to be removed. That concludes the amendment.
We have a second to Mr. Boucher's amendment. We have a second. Any discussion on Mr. Boucher's amendment? Okay, any other discussion on Mr. Boucher's amendment? Mr. Kaiser?
Ms. Johnson explained why she said her name.
She removed her name.
Did she get the
She just removed her name.
Mr. Gabolas?
Point of information.
Yes, sir.
During the year, can we add people to these committees approved by the body?
Yes, sir. You may.
So it doesn't have to close it. This is where they are.
Yes, sir. Any other discussion on Mr. Boucher's particular amendment? All right, all those, oh, Mr. Katie, did you raise your hand?
When the full county executive
the other committee members that are not present today, will there be any option for them to come together to be on any of these committees? Because right now, we're working on a divided committee, and once they may be waiting for that final judgment to come on board.
We are, the list that we have, these names, the people that are being considered for the committees, subject to, this is a report, subject to amendments by the body. What we decide on tonight, those will be the committees. And so if somebody has decided to withdraw from a committee, then they will not be on that committee. Now, as Mr. Gabolas said, they can be added later if the body decides. But if someone has decided they don't want to be on a committee or they want to withdraw, the list that we're voting on tonight is going to be the list of the committees that we have. Yes, sir, Mr. Sunderman. There's a minimum of 3. I don't believe there's a maximum, yes, sir. Did you have something to say, Mrs. Carr?
When he gave his question, I got the distinct impression he was asking something different. I thought he was asking, when on the 28th, when Dr. Wally has his meeting and all of the executive committee meets, are they going to have an opportunity to recommend people for these various committees and have them be elected for these committees?
The meeting on the 28th is out of order. And so if someone wants to be on a committee, tonight is the night where we're voting on the committees as a body. Because the bylaws that were passed and have been upheld by Chairman Dickey, state chairman, state that this is the process that's outlined in those bylaws to appoint the committees. And so tonight is the night for the committees. That was the question. Anything that's appointed on the 28th, if the meeting is not called properly in accordance with the bylaws, it's out of order, it's invalid. Mr. O'Dare? Correct.
If they go to the meeting on the 28th, which is out of order, they do want to be on the committee, then 25% of the body does want to have a special meeting in the committee. That's what happens.
Correct. Or it could be addressed at any regular meeting as well. Yes, sir. Mr. Sunderman?
Clarification, the old rule used to state that 3 precinct chairs could submit a CEC meeting. Has that been changed to 25% of the precinct
And I believe in the old bylaws, it was 25%. In the new bylaws, it's 20%. But in both sets of bylaws, it allows for provision for the precinct chairs to call a CEC meeting. And just as a note, 25% of the precinct chairs did submit signatures on a petition to call for this meeting tonight, in addition to the steering committee. Mr. Smith, our new chair.
So, on the 28th, is there going to be another meeting based on Dr. Wally? Are they going to be trying to put people into committees also? We'll have two separate committees?
There was an agenda sent out where I believe that would be attempted. As I said, the bylaws are pretty explicit how the process works. And so tonight is the night where the committees will be voted on. This is in order in accordance with the bylaws that were adopted. So, Mr. Cady.
I'd like to make an amendment to the community engagement if I can. I'd like to.
All right, can we vote on Mr. Bichet's amendment first, and then you'll be welcome to present that amendment. Any other discussion on particular to Mr. Bichet's amendment? There's a second. All right, all those in favor of Mr. Bichet's amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Bichet's amendment to add and strike those names passes. Do we have any other amendments? Mr. Cady?
Bill Cady, precinct 25. I'd like to make an amendment under community engagement. I wasn't at the last CEC meeting, and I would like to add myself to the community engagement policy.
Anything else to the amendment? Just you? All right.
I'd just like to add myself into this committee.
Very good. We have a second? We have a second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Oh, absolutely. Mr. Cady's motion was to add himself to the Community Engagement Committee. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, you are on the Community Engagement Committee moving forward. Yes, sir, Mr. Kaiser.
Mine, just an amendment to strike the name of the Technology Committee. My wife has indicated, Sarah Kaiser, that she is currently going through some things and cannot do the work for her the best of her ability. So she would like to have an extra. All right.
If your wife wants that, we better do it. We have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? Those in favor of Mr. Kaiser's motion to strike Sarah Kaiser from the Technology Committee, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Mrs. Winter?
Yes, I have some amendments I'd like to offer. The Vacancy Committee, I would like to strike Kathy Ross, Linda Fox, and Walter West, I do not believe wants to serve in that capacity, and then Sandra Mosley. She was unable to come tonight, and she did not know about anything about the bylaw, but I think that it would be best to just add her later if she decides she wants to be on it.
So you're making a motion to take her name off?
Yes, and then I would like to add to the Vacancy Committee Samuel Allison. On the Victory, 2018 Victory Committee, I'd like to add Kathy Ross. And did you add Alice Alonso?
Yes.
Okay, good. I got that. Okay, and then, let's see. Okay. For headquarters, I want to make sure that Alice and Mark are doubly critical. She's expressed a real interest in that.
What was that last name?
Alonso.
Oh.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I overlooked another change.
All right.
Another amendment. I need to strike Jill Selman Chapman and also add Bill Katie.
All right. Is that all to the amendment?
Yes, thank you.
You got all that?
That was on vacancy? Yes.
Okay. We have a second for Mrs. Winter's amendment. We have a second. Any discussion? Those in favor of Mrs. Winter's amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other amendments? Mr. Adair.
Nominate John Hicks for technology.
It's not a nomination, it's amending the report. You move to amend the report by adding the name John Nix. Okay. A second? You have a second? All right, any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's not a nomination, it's amending the nomination report. Okay, thanks. Just want to get the language legally precise here. All right, we have a second. All right, discussion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Rogers, you had your hand up.
I'd like to move, I thought I was going to be on the finance review committee, so I'll make an amendment to move me off of the finance fundraising and add me to the financial review.
Do we have a second? Mr. Centerman? All right, we'll take that up in the very next amendment. All right, any discussion on Mr. Rogers' amendment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, Mr. Centerman? Mr. Centerman moves to add his name to the Financial Review Committee. Do we second? Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other amendments? Mr. Crumby?
So in the steering committee, we discussed people that were on like multiple committees. So, I want to make a point that there are several people on 4 committees. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows and that those people are willing to serve on all 4.
They're going to be busy.
Yes, they're going to be busy. So what I can tell, John Worth is on 4, but he told me he wanted to pull it to 2. So what do you want to do, John? That's my motion, discuss that, so we need a second before we go too far.
We have a second from Ms. Wells. So what is your motion is to strike?
Is to discuss these people that are on multiple committees to make sure that they should be on there.
Good to discuss.
I make a motion that we consider amending this with people that have 4 committees to make sure that it's correct. That's my motion.
Is that in order? Can you be a little bit more precise?
Okay, so
That's Brian's motion, he should be the one to tell us which ones are on there.
Okay.
Yeah, microphone.
So are you moving to strike these individuals from the report that are on there? Can he move, Mr. Parliamentarian, can he move to consider? All right, you move to consider, striking if there's more than
4 names from committees because they're on a lot. That's my motion.
State it again, please.
All right.
John Wertz is on 4, Mark Frank is on 4, Terry Box is on 4, and Nedra is on 4.
All right, let's do it. The chair recognizes Mr. Crumby for a point of personal privilege to discuss people that are on more than 4 committees. There we go.
Okay, so that's mine. Okay. So, John, do you still want to be on all 4?
What do you think,
John, where's John?
Right here?
You still, what do you want to do?
No, I want to withdraw off of PR and marketing and technology.
Okay. John Boucher, you're on technology, precinct chair support, community engagement. I don't have.
I would withdraw from
if you want to be on it. I just want to make sure. We didn't have time at the meeting. Okay, so the next one is Mark Frank, financial review, community engagement, 2018 victory, and precinct chair.
They're all precinct chair support and community engagement.
Community engagement, he wants to withdraw that. That would be Mark Frank. Mark Frank. Community engagement and.
I'd like to do community space.
And then the last one is Andy Nedro, and he's not here. And I remember him at the committee saying he was going to be involved, of course, I'm okay with that. So, unless somebody else otherwise.
Do we have any more amendments? Mr. Centerman?
Point of information.
Yes, sir.
On the front, there is listed a chair and a vice chair.
Yes, sir.
The 6 committees there. On the back, the committees do not have a chair and a vice chair.
I think it was cut off.
Okay, I believe, looking at these names, from what I remember how the steering committee went, and I did not personally print this, so I don't know, but the people that are on the top are the chairs of those committees, and the people that are listed in the second row there are the vice chairs.
Point of information,
Yes, sir.
There's no vice chair for the PR market.
That is correct. So if someone would like to make an amendment to the report to add a vice chair, they're welcome to do that. Mrs. Winter.
I need to make another amendment on the vacancy. Currently, McIntosh, I asked him if he'd be vice chair. He wants to be on the committee.
Point of order, Mr. Spratt.
We haven't moved on Mr. Crumpy's
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Crumpy, there was not a motion. The chairman just recognized him for a point of personal privilege to discuss that issue. There was no motion to consider.
What
Mr.
changes
Spratt.
that were discussed in his personal privilege?
So moved. So moved.
Mr. Crumpy, will you please state your motion?
My motion is that the people that withdrew, that we strike them from the.
Okay. Madam Secretary, did you make a note of that? The people that.
Yes. You mentioned my name in the beginning when I was on 4 committees, but that was said about taking me off. I'd like to be taken off. Community engagement.
Okay, that's the only one I didn't finish.
All right, we have a second to Mr. Crumpy's motion to amend. Second, those in favor, or any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now you may proceed, Mrs. Winter.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to get through this.
Yes, so on vacancy, Harley McIntosh has declined to be the vice chair, although he wants to be a committee. He recommended Betty Anderson, and she has agreed to be the vice chair on vacancy.
Okay, so Mrs. Winter moves to make Mr. McIntosh a member of the vacancy committee, and then make Mrs. Anderson the vice chair. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, any other, Mr. Crumby?
Yes, I got an email from Pearl Maggio. She wanted to withdraw from the rules committee.
Okay, second, do we have a second?
Good here.
Mr. Crumby is moving that Pearl Maggio be struck from the Rules Committee at her request. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Gabolas.
Amendment, just notice that I am on 4 committees, and I'd like to remove myself from resolutions.
Second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Gabolas?
An additional point of information, there's a couple committees where we have sort of a group list. For instance, under the headquarters, there is a list to be provided by Dorothy. Under one of the other committees, under Victory, there's a number of clubs listed. secretary, I'd like to remove Eagle Forum. I'm a board member of that. They do not nominate, that would be improper for them to be on that committee. As an individual, I'll be happy to serve, but the group itself should not be listed.
All right, so Mr. Gabolas has made a motion to strike Eagle Forum having a representative on the Victory Committee. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
About the areas where we have a list of people, just as a list.
So there were two instances where that occurred. You know, if you could be, do you have an opinion on that? Okay, so there were two instances with the headquarters and the community engagement. For community engagement, Mrs. Pollack submitted the names, and so those were added as amendments by Mr. Boucher, I believe. Mrs. Woodall did not add, she did not ever send myself, I don't believe anyone else in the steering committee, a list. And so it is, the parliamentarian has advised me that names have to be submitted.
So at the next county executive meeting, those names could be added. No problem doing it at that time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mrs. Kay.
I would like to add Joan Lynn Oliver.
Yes, ma'am.
John Martin as vice chairman of community engagement. And also I'd like to point out that Karen Pollock's name is misspelled. E-A-W-L-A-K.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mrs. Stevenson.
I am on board committee, and I'd like to be stricken from PR and marketing, please.
All right, do we have a second? PR and marketing, Jenny Stevenson. All right, any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, finally. Been too calm tonight. Okay, Mr. Shute.
Yes, so I'd like to be stricken from, making an amendment to be stricken from resolution and candidates.
All right, Mr. Shute moves to remove, amend the report to remove his name from candidates. Do we have a second? And resolutions, do we have a second? All right. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Any other amendments? Mr. Green, in the back.
Spelling correction for PR marketing.
All right. I don't think that to fix spelling errors, I don't think we have to vote on that. You just mentioned that to the secretary, and she'll fix it in the records. All right, Mrs. Anderson? Yes, ma'am.
I submitted, before I went on vacation, I submitted some names really early for my precinct, and I don't see any of them here. And I did not, I failed to bring that list with me. And so I'm wondering, my question is, if I submit those names, can they be submitted, or how do we go about it?
If you can recall some of them tonight, you can bring them up, or if we decide to address this at another meeting, you can bring them up then.
But they can be added. Okay. I'll figure it.
Mr. Kaiser.
Point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
We did bring up Ms. Anderson's list, I believe me and Mr. Boucher did.
Okay.
I think the reason that we decided not to add some of the members is because somebody else on the committee got in contact with them, they didn't express interest in serving on the committee. Yes, I understand that, but I think what happened was that a member of the steering committee contacted them, and they either weren't willing to work with us or weren't willing to be on the committee. If I recall correctly, I could be.
Mr. Kaiser, do you yield the floor to Mrs. Anderson? Rogers.
I have a question on that, because earlier you stated that tonight each committee be closed. There would be no more people added to the committees at a later time, except maybe in this case, how are you going to make the exceptions on some and not? Did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, you were talking about the meeting on the 28th. That's not.
Oh, okay.
The CEC can revisit committees at any time. If the executive committee decides to do so. Mrs. Shipham in the back. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do you have any amendment to the resolution committee? Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Any other amendments? Okay. Looks like we made it through. Give yourselves a pound of basket. Okay, so now seeing no other amendments, the question now before the body is to approve the steering committee's nominations report and install these people as to these different committees. And we have a motion and a second already, I believe. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of adopting Mr. Crumby, do you have the floor?
I don't have a chairman. I don't have a leader for fundraising, right?
Oh, that is a very good point. Do we have anyone that would like to make an amendment to add someone as chairman of the fundraising committee? Does anyone want to be the chairman of the fundraising committee that knows how to raise money? Mr. Kaiser?
I make an amendment to move the vice chairman, I can't read the full name, Neil Volpe to the chairman position.
On the finance? Yes. I believe that Terrence Boggs was nominated to be the vice chair of the finance committee by the steering committee. That's my recollection.
But I believe he stepped down to do another committee.
No, I didn't.
I don't believe that he did.
In fact, I wrote a note to, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, may I address you, please?
No, you may not address the body. If you would like to address the body, you could talk to a precinct chair and ask them. Yes, ma'am. Yes, the minutes from the steering committee meeting clearly state that the steering committee nominated Susan Johnson and Terrence Boggs as chair and the vice chair. So Mr. Boggs was the steering committee's nominee for vice chair of the finance committee. And so, Madam Secretary, can you make sure that the report reflects that? I'm not sure how that name got switched around, but we have a motion by Mr. Kaiser to make Mrs. Volke the chair of that committee. Mr. Kaiser, do you know if she would be willing to serve as chair of that committee?
I have no.
Does anyone know her?
As far as I was concerned, looking at the paper, I thought she was the vice chairman, so it was just a...
So do you withdraw your amendment?
Yes.
Does anyone have an amendment to put someone as the chair of the finance? Mr. O'Dear? We have a second. Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to know from Terrence if he would accept.
Mr. Boggs, we'll recognize you this time. Would you accept that?
Now I get recognized. I just thought it was funny because the only reason I brought it up was I'd send out an email a week or so back addressing.
Yes,
whether
yes
I-
or no? Yes or no?
Yes, I'll take it.
Okay.
As long as there's other members on the committee.
Mrs. Anderson?
I do know Janelle Bolte, and she's very good at fundraising.
Okay.
She's got a lot of experience too. But, so exactly why did we decide not to ask her? She would like to be, she's not here tonight, of course. Right. But I could text her.
She is on the committee. If she would like to be considered, if you would like to text her and see if she would like to be the chair of that committee. Well, we need to make a decision tonight.
Yes.
So if you maybe could step outside real quick and talk to her while we're discussing this. If you would like. All right, any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know from Mr. Boggs what his fundraising experience is. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, Mr. Boggs, could you come up to the podium and address Mr. Wertz's question, please?
He wants to know what my fundraising experience is, which is why I ran for vice chair. I've actually been in charge of a number of organizations, have had to raise funds in the past, but I am new to Montgomery County. So that's why I asked to be vice chair, not chair. Somebody nominated me tonight to be chair, but the fact is I specifically stated I'd rather be vice chair. There are people who, we'll see how this phone call goes, who know the county much better than myself. I'm very, very good, though, at asking people to step up to the plate to donate to the party. Somebody recently posted a post that said that now that the bylaws have been changed, they would love to be able to start contributing money and other resources to the party. I think the county would agree to that they would like to support the party, and I think it'd be easy to actually fundraise. It just takes somebody willing to go and step up to the plate and say, we need you now. And as the treasurer's report addressed, we don't exactly have large sums of money, and there's lots of things we'd like to do. I've spoken to Mr. Boucher about some of them that will take money to be able to get where we want to go. And I can easily, like I said, I won't be the only one. As long as I have a crew to work with, I can do it. But I will need people on there that know where we need to go and how to do it. Because like I said, I did not grow up here, and there are people who know where to shake the bushes, as they say. So.
Mr. Wertz, is that?
Yeah, just another question.
Mr. Wertz has
Mr. Boggs, how much time can you devote to that, say on a weekly basis?
Weekly basis, as much as needed. I'm not retired. You're retired, aren't you? Yeah. 4 people volunteer for 4 committees. I didn't. I plan to give as much time as needed for those committees. Let me tell you, I'm a full-time teacher. I also ran a full-time archive at the same time. I helped start the Houston Tea Party. I was one of the early ones. I was doing all 3 at the same time and did very, very well. So as far as the ability to give time, I'll even show you my emails. I was sitting at emails at 3:30 this morning. I have the energy and the time to give as I need. I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. Boggs, I have a question. You recently ran for county chairman, and I supported you. How much money did you raise for your own campaign?
Actually, interesting enough, you're one of the people that didn't donate.
How much money
You
did
have a
raise?
direct knowledge of it because you didn't contribute. It was not a vast amount, but I will address to this. I came within 3,000 votes of winning. So I came close enough to be able to come within a hair's breadth.
Mr. Boggs, the question is, how much money did you raise for your campaign?
It was in the hundreds of dollars.
It's in the hundreds of dollars.
Right.
You don't have a specific dollar amount?
No, I don't. I have a treasurer. But what I'm trying to say is, I ran against the gentleman.
All right, Mr. Boggs, that was the question.
Pardon me?
The question was how much you raised.
Yeah,
you
it was
answered
within
it
a few
in the
hundred
hundreds. Okay.
The issue is how I use that.
That's out of order.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yes, sir, Mr. Sunderman.
Mr. Boggs, question for you. Knights of Columbus, we get credit for the chair. How much time did you spend
How much time do you spend on the campaign? Every single night, literally. I was out on the road literally twice a week. I went to every part of the county, including East Montgomery, Magnolia, every single location, at least twice a week speaking, nights, websites, literally gave loads and loads of time, not counting putting out signs and everything else. Actually, I paid higher than that. But, and I know what you're saying. God, 5, 10, 15, I'm counting up hours in a week. 20, 28, easy 30 hours a week, maybe more, because the weekends, Saturday and Sunday were full days. So if you want to look at 16 during the weekend, easily 4 hours a night, times 5, 20. So 30, 40, 50 hours, $20 an hour, $1,000 a week. But the point is that I came within 3,000 votes, which means the money I spent was well spent. And the person addressing me didn't donate. So the issue is not whether I could donate.
Mr. Boggs, that sounded wrong. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Boucher?
Yes, I think Terrence Boggs has made it clear that he would prefer to be vice chair of that seat, because he understands his limitations, and I respect that. But we're void of a chairman for that committee right now. So I move that we table this until the next meeting.
Do we have a second to Mr. Boucher's amendment to the table? All right. Any discussion on Mr. Boucher's amendment to table the selection of a finance chair until the next meeting? Mr. Sager. Mrs. Anderson, do you have a response?
Yes, she thinks that she thinks she'd be willing to be on the committee that chair.
Okay. Someone else had their hand about the same time. Mr. Shute?
Yeah, just wanted to see if this is going to put the financial fundraising apparatus on hold until the chairman is done. We just step up the next guy, which would be Mr. Boggs.
We will still have a committee in place, yes, sir. We just will not have a chair for that committee. Any other discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Cundy.
Amendment to Mr. Boucher's motion.
Please state your amendment to the amendment.
My amendment is to let Terrence work at it for now, and us look for somebody else, and see if that works, and go from there, because we do need to raise some money and all that sort of stuff.
Since Mr. Boggs is already the vice chair of the report, that would effectively be the case if his amendment passes, so I don't think we need an amendment to an amendment.
I'll withdraw it.
Okay. Any more discussion on Mr. Boucher's amendment to table the appointment of the Finance Committee chair until the next meeting? Any discussion? All right, those in favor of Mr. Boucher's motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes, and we will table selection of a chair of the Finance Committee until the next meeting. Okay. Any other amendments? Okay. Any other discussion on the report as a whole? Hearing no other discussion, those in favor of accepting the nominations report, we're already going to vote, so there's not a need to call the question. All those in favor of accepting the nominations report as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. The nominations of the steering committee pass. This report as amended. Okay. I know. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Fowler. Yes, ma'am.
Will you send out an updated committee list, please?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. we will certainly do that. Okay, I know that took a while, but what we did, you picked these committees, these were your choices, this is your team, and so these are the folks that we're going to rally behind to get out the vote in November. And so, with that, we will move on to website and social media, where we have the permanent chairman of the Technology Committee, Bill Brenza. Would you like to address us, Mr. Chairman?
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot to tell you because we're waiting on a lot of these things in the vain hope that we get permission to work on these things because we don't have the passwords to do so. The new website, mcgop.online, is up and running. Please forgive us as we bring this thing online. Some of the things are out there as placeholders. We know they need to be cleaned up. We know they need to be put in different formats and stuff, but we're trying to make sure that basic information, such as the precinct chairs and who's on the committees and the minutes of the meetings and everything, is online and in place for you. There is a place to contact, the contact form on there. If you have any questions or comments about the website, that ends up on my computer, and I will forward it on or take whatever action you guys require. So you can just go ahead and that's the easiest way to get it to.
Repeat the website again, please.
mcgop.online. Any questions?
Precinct chair, can you copy or email list of all registered Republican voters?
If I had it, I would love to give it to you.
Information that's available from the county elections office. You have to register and say you're not going to use this for commercial use. But you can download that. Downloading is free. Print it out and cost you a couple of bucks. It depends on how big of this. Yes, it's available on all the devices.
And eventually we'll have that kind of stuff available online. I just don't have it right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brenza, and thank you for all the very good work that you've been doing with the new Technology Committee, helping reach voters through that. It's very much appreciated. Okay, 2018 Victory Campaign Committee is on the agenda. Mr. Dale Inman was chosen as the chairman of that committee. Unfortunately, Mr. Inman informed me before the meeting started tonight that some people that he knew, their 20-year-old son actually was killed in a car accident today. And so he drove out to minister to the family. They live out in Katy. And so he's ministering to them this afternoon. And he asked that you all keep that family, the George family, keep them in your prayers. They're having a really hard time, as you can expect, with something very tragic about 20-year-old dying, their life being cut that short. So keep them in your prayers. Keep Mr. Inman in your prayers as he ministers to them, please. And so, I guess since he's not here, the Victory Campaign Committee that he will be chairing, they'll be responsible for getting out the votes, and they should be having a meeting very soon, and you'll get a notice of that, and anyone's welcome to attend that and ask him and see how they can get involved in getting out the vote and making sure the Republican slate is successful, and that we absolutely crush the Democrats in November and stop this supposed, blue ripple or something like that. Like these cracks. So Dale Inman will be the kind of the contact on that campaign committee, and like I said, he'll have more information. He'll let y'all know when that starts. Yes, sir, Mr. Spratt, you have a question? Yes, sir.
On there, there's a couple places where organizations I am now being chairman of Montgomery County
Congratulations.
Should we just meet, have our board meet to determine that and contact us?
Yes, sir. No, select whoever you want, however you want to do that, and just send them as your representative to that meeting. Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. O'Dare.
There's a lot of talk that many of us are not supporting the Republican candidate in November. We go ahead and make an official statement that as the Republican Party, we are endorsing the fourth slate.
If you would like to bring up a resolution to that effect during the new business here in a second, you absolutely can bring that resolution. Yes, sir. Any further discussion on the 2018 Victory Campaign Committee? All right. Hearing none, we can move on to new business. Chairs, this is your meeting. Do you have anything we need to talk about? I believe, well, you have the resolution ready right now?
I don't have anywhere at.
Okay.
Therefore, be it resolved.
Can you come up to the microphone, please? Want to be sure everyone can hear it. The secretary here can be sure to write down the correct wording.
I apologize for not having this written beforehand, but we can do simple, be it resolved that the Montgomery County Republican Party Steering Committee and all precinct chairs fully endorse the Republican slate in the general election.
All right, we're working on getting the whole resolution up there on the screen so everybody can see it. We can discuss it.
It's hard doing under pressure, man.
She's doing an excellent job though tonight. Oh, that's you. Okay. Good job. For getting this all together. See her typing here, he's typing here.
I'm open for amendments.
Okay.
I was kind of feeling useless up here.
All right, Mr. Adair, is that the correct language wording on there?
That's good.
All right, Mr. Crumby seconded the motion for this resolution. Members, is there any discussion or amendments to Mr. Adair's resolution? Mr. Sager.
I move that we strike GOP County Executive Committee of Montgomery County and change that to Montgomery County Republican Party.
Do we have a second? Is that amendment acceptable to the author? Okay. It's acceptable to the author. You can just add it. Okay, any other discussion or amendments? Mr. Robbins.
As the word
Is the amendment acceptable to the author? Mr. Sunderman, I think I saw your hand.
P-A-R-T-Y,
I missed yours.
Before 2/18/2018.
I have an amendment. It's just a grammar. Endorses to just endorse senior, if that's agreeable to the author. I withdraw my amendment.
Okay, any further discussion on this resolution or any further amendments to Mr. Adair's resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Adair's resolution as written up on the screen there, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Adair, your resolution passes. Congratulations. Thank you for bringing that. I think it makes a really strong statement. Mr. Boucher, under new business.
I have a motion. I want to make a motion to ratify the adoption of the bylaws as adopted on June 26, 2018.
Set down under Robert's Rules of Order. Hold on just a second, Mr. Boucher, while the parliamentarian consults the rules on, and we'll decide if the motion is in order. But I see some other people have hands up. Would you mind withdrawing your motion just temporarily until, and we can address what they have, and then we can come back to that in a second? Okay. Mr. Doyle.
I understand that there's somebody
in the past, a name tag. I'm suggesting that we do the same thing now and get all the new people updated and everything. And something that just hit me tonight, the Montgomery County outline is in blue. Should that maybe be in red? Committee take over the meetings they have made, and we'll, I'm suggesting that we pay for them ourselves. Somebody who pays for them, I'll pay for them, and everybody can reimburse us.
Would you like to bring this up at the next steering committee meeting? Okay, thank you. Mr. Sunderman. Please repeat that, sir.
I'll ask the next CEC meeting, we'll make a motion next CEC meeting to reconsider purchasing a identification of those precinct chairs and for the office.
Okay, that's your motion. Is there a second?
State that again?
Would you mind coming to the microphone so everyone can hear that?
It's basically the same thing.
It's exactly the same.
I mentioned it earlier, and I think this is the time to talk about it. I'm asking that we consider purchasing indemnification, which is legal support for precinct chairs and for the officers. You could, I know that I'm asking it on behalf of my family. I have stuff to defend. Other people might not. So that's my motion.
He'll give you one.
Yeah, so I've been asked to ask why. I've already been threatened by certain people with lawsuits for a stand in this county. My wife quit politics because of that threat, and I need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So, I wanted to state this. My motion is not that we approve it tonight, that we talk about it next meeting.
I second that.
Can I ask a question? What exactly are you asking for?
Legal insurance,
Legal insurance.
just been, that's called it, that's from lawsuits. For especially, because we have an enemy, and we have smaller enemies, but we have a very big enemy in the Democratic Party, and I think I've had some people, particularly when the precinct chair is not here, he got sued by a federal issue. He was isolated. It was one of those companies that they went after, Obama administration. I'm just looking for some type of protection. I'm wanting to fundraise for that. And so I'd like to talk about it next meeting.
Okay, members, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Adair? Sir, you're recognized to speak briefly in favor.
Not sure if anyone's aware of what recently happened in Galveston County, but individual precinct chairs were sued by the county chair. And after the county chair resigned, the county party had to reimburse the individual precinct chairs for being sued. So I think a little insurance for all of us, whether it's internal lawsuits or external lawsuits, is probably a good idea. We could talk about this next meeting.
Yes, sir. Mr. West, would you like to speak for or against?
Actually, may I just add, it is the actual cost of $16,500 for 8 precinct chairs was reimbursed.
Wow. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of Mr. Centerman's motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Anything else that we need to consider under new business? Mr. Frank.
No, it ain't that bad this time. Mark Frank, Precinct 10. I think we need to strongly consider looking at the Republican Party rules for the state. It clearly outlines that we should be asking candidates to fill out basically a your beliefs form based upon our party planks. I think as a group and as a community to educate our citizens when we say get out and vote, which we're having a giant 2018 campaign if anyone forgot about, I'd like people to be educated. I'd like to know where their politics stand, whether you're with the party or against it. I don't care what subject it's on. I think that people need to be educated, and as chairs, if I'm going to sit here and say this is a Republican, I'd like to know if I'm lying to somebody or not.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So there was a motion on the floor.
Motion was withdrawn.
I will withdraw my motion.
Mr. Boucher withdraws his motion.
Were you making a motion, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll second that.
Sir,
I'll
so
second
there's-
that motion.
Would you please state your motion? What exactly you're
I
doing?
want to discuss.
Set the microphone, please.
Come on, Paul, I'm a loud guy. Okay, at the next meeting, I want to discuss implementing the planks as a whole for every candidate to say they either agree, disagree with our plank in the sentence. In all planks, I know there's 300 and something, I apologize, but we want to know where you stand. Question.
Isn't that something we would do for the candidates?
Yes, but we need to implement it, and I think as a party, we should be on that.
Currently, that's not under the currently defined candidates committees.
Okay.
But if we do this, I think.
It would become then, yes. It's on the state rule only, it's not currently upheld by our bylaw. Yes. Oh, Lord, let me resign. Yes. Well, it's almost like a vetting, if you want to call it vetting. I don't like that word. I mean, that's what JD does to people. I don't want to be that guy.
Mr. Frank, I very much appreciate the sentiments about the importance of the platform and the importance of all our candidates abiding by that. However, the parliamentarian I've consulted with and am advised that there's candidates, you can't statutorily require candidates.
Don't require them, ask them to.
So RPT Rule 43, I believe, specifically states that RPT Rule 43 specifically states that the county chairman is required to hand them the platform, and they have the option of signing on to that. So that's already enshrined in state statute, and so that's the duty of the county chairman. So the motion is out of order. Sorry. Yes, sir, Mr. Crumby.
His motion was not to make some rule. His motion was to discuss next CEC that issue.
That's true.
Yes. So I think his motion is in order. It's a discussion. It's not making a rule. It's not making candidates do anything. It's to discuss it at the next CEC meeting. Specifically Rule 43, which says what the party should have done and did not do, from what I understand. So I did a little investigating on that. So I think his motion is in order.
Okay. The way it was stated, it was not. However, if you would like to state the motion as Mr. Crumby has just stated it, I believe that would be in order.
That's pretty much what it
Okay.
says.
Okay.
It's written.
Okay.
Motion D.
Mr. Parliamentarian, would that be in order? Right here, what's on the screen? D.
Sorry, I missed out when I was reading.
Discuss. All right, so the motion is simply discuss next CC meeting, candidate looking at the candidate looking at party rules regarding party platform.
I can't make sense of that.
Yeah, it's not a clearly stated.
Openly discuss Rule 43.
So you're moving that the CEC discuss implementation of Rule 43, RPT Rule 43 at the next CEC meeting.
Yes. Unless you say
that
no,
is an order.
then
That would be an order worded that way. Mr. Crumby, could you please write it out that way? The CEC discuss the implementation of RPT Rule 43 at the next CEC meeting. And motion or number or letter B here under new business was withdrawn, so that needs to be removed. Okay. All right. So the wording as it's now worded is in order. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Frank. Your motion passes. We'll discuss it at the next CEC. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Boucher. Oh, okay. All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We stand adjourned. Thank you for your patience.